The morning sky over New York turned dark as massive ships blocked out the sun. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the deck of his warship watching the alien vessels take position above every major city on Earth. The enemy fleet was huge, with 300 ships, each one bigger than 10 city blocks put together. Captain Lisa Barnes ran toward Morrison with urgent news from the communications room. Her face was pale and her hands shook as she handed him the decoded message that had just arrived from space. The alien commander was speaking to the entire planet at once using technology that could reach every radio and television on Earth. The voice that came through the speakers was cold and mechanical, but the translation was perfect. People of Earth, you have 3 days to surrender completely. Take apart your armies, destroy your governments, and get ready to become part of the Zephyrian Empire. If you fight back, we will destroy your entire world. This is your only warning. Deep underground in the mountain fortress of Cheyenne, the leaders of Earth gathered in the emergency war room. General Carl Peterson called the meeting to order as representatives from every nation took their seats around the massive table. The room was filled with tension as everyone realized humanity faced its greatest threat. Major Amy Collins stood at the front of the room, presenting what their intelligence teams had learned about the enemy. She pointed to the large screen showing detailed scans of the alien ships hovering above their cities. The technology was far beyond anything humans had ever seen. Their weapons can destroy entire continents with single shots, she explained to the worried faces around the table. Our missiles cannot even reach their ships because of some kind of energy barrier that surrounds them. They are at least 200 years ahead of us in every area of science and warfare. President Richard Kane looked older than his 60 years as he listened to the terrible news. His gray hair seemed even grayer under the harsh lights of the underground bunker. He had led the country through many crises, but nothing like this had ever threatened the entire human race. What about our secret weapons project? Kane asked quietly. The one we have been working on for the past 10 years. Is it ready to use against these invaders? Dr. Helen Wright shook her head sadly as she reviewed the files on her computer. She was the lead scientist on Project Nightfall, which had been designed to defend Earth against exactly this kind of attack. But the project was not finished and would not be ready for at least 6 more months. We need more time, she said with frustration in her voice. The prototype weapons are powerful, but they have not been tested properly. Using them now would be more dangerous to us than to the enemy. While the world leaders argued about their limited options, another meeting was taking place in a different part of the mountain. Commander Nick Sullivan received a message marked with the highest level of security clearance. Only a few dozen people on Earth even knew this clearance level existed. The message was short, but it changed everything. Activate Protocol 7. Release the Black Armada. Sullivan had waited his entire military career for this moment. He had trained for it, studied for it, and prepared for it, but he never really believed it would happen. 20 miles away from the main command center, Sullivan entered a restricted area that did not appear on any official maps. The tunnel was narrow and seemed to go down into the earth forever. Armed guards checked his identification 3 times. Before allowing him to continue deeper into the mountain, the elevator ride took 15 minutes, and Sullivan knew he was now far below the official levels of the facility. When the doors opened, he stepped into a world that few humans had ever seen. The cavern was enormous, stretching out beyond what his eyes could see in the dim lighting. Captain Danny Rodriguez was waiting for him at the security checkpoint. Rodriguez had been assigned to this program just 1 week ago, and his face still showed surprise at what he had discovered. The 2 men walked through the massive underground facility as Sullivan explained what they were looking at. This has been here for 40 years, Sullivan said as they moved deeper into the complex. We started building it right after we first detected signals from space. The government knew that someday aliens would come to Earth and we would need something special to fight them. The cavern was filled with ships unlike anything in the regular Earth military. These vessels were sleek and black, with angles that seemed to cut through the air even while sitting still. They absorbed light instead of reflecting it, making them hard to see even up close. Rodriguez counted at least 200 ships in just the section they could see. How many people know about this place, he asked as they walked between the dark vessels. Less than 500 worldwide, Sullivan replied. Everyone who works here has been specially chosen and trained. They all volunteered for something that might change them forever. As they moved through the facility, Sullivan explained how the Black Armada had been built. The ships used technology that had been recovered from alien crashes dating back decades. Every piece had been studied, improved, and incorporated into these new vessels that could match anything the galaxy had to offer. The crews were different too. They had undergone changes that made them faster, stronger, and smarter than normal humans. Some had cybernetic implants that connected their brains directly to their ships. Others had been genetically modified to handle the stress of advanced space combat. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell walked past them toward her assigned vessel. Her eyes glowed with a soft blue light from the implants that allowed her to see in multiple spectrums. She moved with perfect balance, and her reflexes were faster than any normal human could achieve. The transformation process is dangerous, Sullivan explained. About 20% do not survive it. But those who do become something more than human, while keeping everything that makes us human. They remember why they fight and what they are protecting. The ships themselves carried weapons that had never been tested in real combat. Dark matter cannons could punch through any known defensive system. Stealth technology made them invisible to most sensors, and their engines could accelerate them to speeds that would crush normal humans. Colonel Ryan Murphy appeared on the communication screens throughout the facility. His voice echoed off the cavern walls as he addressed the crews who were preparing for their first real mission. Many of them had trained for years without knowing if they would ever need to use their skills. The Zephyrians think we are just another primitive species, Murphy said with determination in his voice. They believe they can scare us into surrender with a show of force. But they have made one critical mistake. They have threatened Earth and everything we care about. The crews moved quickly to their ships as alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Massive doors that had been sealed for decades started opening to reveal launch tubes that led up to the surface. The Black Armada was about to emerge from the shadows and show the galaxy what humans could do when their backs were against the wall. Sullivan watched as the first ships began moving toward the launch tubes. After 40 years of preparation, humanity was finally ready to fight back against the threat from space. The Zephyrians had demanded surrender, but they were about to learn why that was impossible. The aliens had studied human history and military capabilities, but they had missed the most important fact about the human species. When faced with extinction, humans did not give up. They fought back with everything they had, and they never stopped fighting until they won or died, trying. As the countdown began for the launch of the Black Armada, Sullivan smiled for the first time since the alien ships had arrived. The real war was about to begin. The first day after the alien ultimatum passed, with governments around the world trying to find solutions that did not exist. Commander Sullivan walked through the massive underground hangar, watching the final preparations for humanity's last desperate gamble. The Black Armada had been hidden for 40 years, and now it was time to see if all that preparation would be enough. Captain Danny Rodriguez followed Sullivan deeper into the facility, trying to understand everything he was seeing. The ships around them looked like nothing he had ever imagined possible. Their black hulls seemed to drink in the light from the overhead fixtures, making them appear like holes cut in the air itself. The first alien crash happened in 1947, Sullivan explained as they walked between the dark vessels. But that was not the only one. We have recovered technology from dozens of incidents over the decades. Every piece was brought here and studied by our best scientists until they understood how it worked. The hangar stretched for miles in every direction, carved out of solid rock deep beneath the Nevada desert. Rodriguez counted ship after ship lined up in perfect rows, waiting for crews that had trained their entire adult lives for this moment. Each vessel was unique, designed for specific missions that might determine the fate of humanity. Dr. Helen Wright appeared beside them, carrying a datapad filled with technical specifications that most humans could never understand. She had worked on reverse engineering alien technology for 20 years, and her eyes showed the strain of countless sleepless nights spent unlocking secrets from the stars. The dark matter cannons are our greatest achievement, she said proudly, pointing to the weapon systems mounted on the nearest ship. Normal weapons fire particles or energy beams that can be deflected by shields. But dark matter passes right through most defensive systems as if they were not even there. Sullivan nodded as he remembered the first successful test of the new weapons. They had fired at a target protected by the most advanced shielding technology Earth could produce. The dark matter beam had passed through the shields, without even slowing down, and vaporized the target completely. The crews were gathering near their assigned vessels, and Rodriguez could see immediately that these were not normal military personnel. Some moved with inhuman grace and speed, while others had visible modifications that marked them as something beyond ordinary humans. Their eyes glowed with internal light, and their reflexes were faster than anything natural. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell walked past them toward her ship, and Rodriguez noticed that her movements were perfectly coordinated without any wasted motion. Her cybernetic implants allowed her to process information at superhuman speeds, and her enhanced muscles could handle forces that would crush normal bones. The transformation process is voluntary, Sullivan explained when he saw Rodriguez staring at the enhanced crews. We explained the risks to everyone who volunteered for this program. Some chose genetic modification, while others preferred cybernetic enhancement. A few underwent both types of changes. Captain Kevin Walsh was checking the weapon systems on his ship when they approached. His arms had been replaced with cybernetic limbs that could interface directly with his vessel's control systems. When he touched the weapon controls, he became part of the ship itself, with reflexes measured in microseconds instead of normal human reaction times. The Zephyrians have never fought anyone like us, Walsh said with confidence as he ran final diagnostics on his dark matter cannon. Their intelligence reports show them what normal humans can do. They have no idea that we exist or what we are capable of accomplishing in battle. The enhancement process had taken place over many years, with volunteers coming from every branch of the military and many civilian scientific fields. Each person knew they might not survive the changes, but they also understood that humanity needed defenders who could match alien capabilities. Commander Julie Henderson was reviewing tactical data on her command screen when Sullivan introduced her to Rodriguez. Her eyes had been replaced with advanced optical sensors that could see across multiple spectrums of light. She could track dozens of targets simultaneously while processing battle information faster than any natural mind. We have studied every alien ship design that we could recover, Henderson explained as tactical displays showed detailed plans of Zephyrian vessels. We know their weak points, their weapon ranges, and their defensive capabilities. Most importantly, we know they have never fought anyone who could match their technology. The stealth systems on the Black Armada ships were based on alien technology, but improved by human engineering. The vessels could become completely invisible to most sensors, while still maintaining full combat effectiveness. They could strike without warning and disappear before the enemy could respond. Rodriguez watched as crews continued their final preparations, and realized that many of them no longer looked completely human. The genetic modifications had changed their basic biology, while the cybernetic implants had replaced organic systems with artificial ones. But their dedication to protecting Earth had not changed at all. "Do you ever regret what you have become?" Rodriguez asked Mitchell as she completed her pre-flight checks. Mitchell paused for a moment, considering the question carefully. "I remember being fully human, but I also remember choosing to become something more. We did not do this for ourselves. We did it because someone had to be ready when this day came. Now we can protect everyone we left behind on the surface." The launch systems had been installed in complete secrecy, with exit tunnels that led to the surface through carefully hidden openings. When the ships launched, they would appear to come from empty desert with no trace of the massive facility below. The Zephyrians would think they were being attacked by vessels that had somehow appeared from nowhere. Colonel Ryan Murphy addressed the assembled crews over the communication system as final countdown procedures began. His voice carried the weight of 4 decades of preparation and the hope of an entire species facing extinction from the stars above. The Zephyrians chose to threaten our world because they thought we were helpless, Murphy said as status lights showed green across the board for every ship in the fleet. They studied our public military capabilities and decided we could not resist their demands. But they made one critical error in their calculations. The massive doors began opening for the first time since the facility had been completed years ago. Sunlight streamed down the launch tubes as the Black Armada prepared to emerge from the shadows, where it had waited for this moment. The enhanced crews took their positions at controls that would respond to thought as much as touch. They assumed that what they could see was all we had. Murphy continued as the first ships moved toward the launch tubes. They never considered that humans might prepare for this exact situation. They never imagined that we might be ready to fight back with weapons and warriors that could match anything they could bring to bear against us. Sullivan watched as Sarah Mitchell's ship began moving toward the surface. After 40 years of waiting, the Black Armada was finally going into battle. The Zephyrians had come to Earth expecting easy conquest, but they were about to discover why threatening humanity was the worst mistake they could possibly make. The real war was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Zephyrian fleet held position above Earth with perfect confidence in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, reviewing reports from his scouts who had been studying human military capabilities for months. Every analysis showed the same conclusion that Earth had no weapons capable of threatening ships protected by advanced energy shields. The human governments had sent multiple surrender offers during the night, but Vextar had ignored them all. Fear was an excellent tool for controlling primitive species, and he wanted the humans to understand exactly how helpless they were before accepting their capitulation to the Empire. "Begin the demonstration," Vextar commanded as his weapons officer prepared to target major population centers. "Destroy one city completely. Make sure the humans can see what happens to those who resist the Empire. After they witness our power, they will beg us to accept their surrender." The massive weapon systems on the Zephyrian dreadnoughts began charging with energy that could crack continental plates. Targeting systems locked onto New York, where millions of humans waited in terror for death from above. The aliens had chosen the largest city to maximize the psychological impact of their demonstration. But as the first weapon reached full charge, something impossible appeared on Zephyrian sensors. Space around Earth suddenly filled with new contacts that had not been there moments before. 200 ships materialized from apparently empty vacuum, as if they had been created from nothing by some unknown technology. Captain Kevin Walsh fired, the first shot from his position directly above the Zephyrian flagship. His dark matter cannon released energy that passed through the alien shields as if they were made of thin air. The beam struck the massive vessel amidships and tore it completely in half before the enemy commander could even process what was happening. Admiral Vextar died without understanding how primitive humans had acquired weapons that could penetrate shields designed to stop the most advanced armaments in the galaxy. His flagship broke apart in a brilliant explosion that lit up the space around Earth like a new star being born. The Black Armada struck with precision that shocked the surviving Zephyrian commanders. These were not the clumsy chemical rockets they had observed in human military exercises. These ships moved with grace and speed that matched the best vessels in the Imperial fleet while firing weapons that seemed to ignore every defensive system. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell led her squadron through the enemy formation like shadows made solid. Her enhanced reflexes allowed her to process battle information faster than organic minds could function, while her cybernetic implants gave her direct control over every system on her ship. The stealth technology kept her vessels invisible to Zephyrian sensors, even while they fired at point-blank range. Mitchell watched enemy ships explode around her as her pilot struck target after target, without the aliens being able to locate or return fire against their attackers. Captain Danny Rodriguez had been assigned to one of the attack squadrons after completing emergency enhancement procedures in just 6 hours. The process should have taken weeks, but there had been no time for proper preparation. His genetic modifications were still adapting as he guided his ship through the battle above Earth. The dark matter weapons proved even more effective than their designers had hoped. Zephyrian shields had been developed to stop particle beams and energy weapons, but they offered no protection against matter that existed partially outside normal space-time. Every shot from the human fleet found its target. Commander Julie Henderson coordinated the attack from her command ship while processing tactical data through her cybernetic brain. She could track every vessel in both fleets simultaneously while calculating firing solutions and movement patterns that would have overwhelmed any natural mind. "Target their command ships first," Henderson broadcast to all Black Armada vessels. "Take out their ability to coordinate, and the rest will be much easier to handle. Remember that we trained for this exact situation, while they have never faced opponents who could match their capabilities." The battle lasted only 3 hours, but it changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The mighty Zephyrian fleet that had arrived with such confidence found itself outmatched by opponents they had dismissed as primitive savages. Human. Weapons cut through their defenses while human ships danced around their return fire. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of his regular Earth defense ship as the Black Armada tore the enemy fleet apart. His conventional weapons were useless in this fight, but he could see that the secret program had achieved everything its designers had promised. Colonel Ryan Murphy observed the battle from the underground command center, where tactical displays showed the destruction of ship after ship in the enemy fleet. 40 years of preparation and training were paying off as enhanced human crews proved they could fight toe-to-toe with any force the galaxy could produce. The few surviving Zephyrian vessels attempted to retreat, but found their escape routes blocked by human ships that could match their speed and maneuverability. Captain Walsh pursued one group of fleeing enemies, while Mitchell cut off another escape attempt from the opposite direction. "Let some of them go," Henderson commanded as the last enemy ships broke formation and fled toward deep space. "We want survivors to carry word back to their empire. They need to know that Earth is not helpless, and that attacking us was the worst mistake they could possibly make." The wreckage of 300 alien warships slowly tumbled through space around Earth, as the Black Armada regrouped from their first real combat mission. Not a single human ship had been lost, while the most powerful fleet the Zephyrian Empire could assemble had been completely destroyed. President Kane received the battle report in his underground bunker, and felt relief wash over him for the first time since the crisis began. The secret program that had consumed enormous resources for 4 decades had justified every dollar spent, and every risk taken by the volunteers who had become something more than human. Dr. Helen Wright analyzed the wreckage data from the battle, and realized that human technology had not just matched alien capabilities, but actually exceeded them in many areas. The dark matter weapons were more effective than anyone had dared hope, while the enhanced crews had fought with skill that surpassed the best alien pilots. The surviving Zephyrian ships would reach their home territory in several months, carrying news that would shock the Empire to its core. A primitive species on the edge of known space had just destroyed the largest battle fleet ever assembled by their military forces. Sullivan stood in the hangar watching as the Black Armada returned from their first victory. The enhanced crews emerged from their ships changed by combat, in ways that went beyond their physical modifications. They had proven that humans could stand against any threat the universe might send against them. The galaxy would never be the same after this day. Humanity had announced its arrival among the stars not with diplomacy or trade agreements, but with the thunder of advanced weapons and the fury of a species that refused to kneel before anyone. Earth was no longer a helpless world waiting for protection from others. The Black Armada had made sure that any species considering an attack on humanity would need to think very carefully about the consequences of that decision. The real war was just beginning. News of the fleet's destruction reached the Zephyrian homeworld after 6 months of space travel, and Emperor Zakthul could barely believe the reports from the few survivors. His most powerful battle group had been completely wiped out by a species that intelligence reports claimed was still using chemical rockets and primitive nuclear weapons. Grand Admiral Veltar stood before the Imperial War Council trying to explain how 300 advanced warships had been defeated by an enemy they had studied for years. The tactical recordings from the surviving vessels showed weapons that should not have existed, and ships that moved with impossible speed and precision. They must have received help from another empire, Veltar insisted as he reviewed the battle data for the 100th time. No species developed such advanced technology without outside assistance. Someone else must be supporting them against us. But deeper investigation revealed the terrible truth that the Zephyrian leadership did not want to accept. The humans had developed these weapons completely on their own using technology recovered from decades of alien crashes and encounters. They had taken Zephyrian science and improved it beyond what the original creators thought possible. Emperor Zakthul ordered the largest military build-up in the Empire's history as shipyards. Across dozens of worlds began producing vessels for the second assault on Earth. This time they would send 2,000 ships with weapons designed specifically to counter the new human technology. On Earth, the victory celebration was brief as military leaders realized the aliens would return with even greater force. The Black Armada had proven its effectiveness, but 200 ships would not be enough to face the massive fleet that intelligence reports suggested was being assembled across Zephyrian space. General Peterson authorized the full expansion of the enhancement program as volunteers lined up at military bases around the world. The transformation process that had once been limited to a few hundred elite soldiers was now being offered to anyone willing to accept the risks. Captain Tony Morrison stood in the medical facility preparing for genetic and cybernetic enhancement despite warnings from his older brother Admiral Jake Morrison. The procedures had improved since the early days, but still carried significant dangers that could result in death or permanent disability. "You don't have to do this," Admiral Morrison said as he watched his younger brother prepare for changes that would make him something beyond human. "We have enough enhanced crews already, and the regular fleet can still contribute to the defense." Tony smiled as the medical technicians began preparing the enhancement equipment. "Someone has to do it, and I have been training for this possibility my entire military career. If I don't survive the process, then at least I tried to make a difference when humanity needed defenders." The transformation took 18 hours, and Tony emerged from the medical chamber with glowing blue eyes and reflexes that operated faster than normal human thought. His bones had been strengthened with metal alloys, while his nervous system was enhanced with organic computers that could process battle data instantly. The lunar base that had been secretly constructed over the past decade became the primary training facility for new Black Armada crews. Hundreds of enhanced humans learned to pilot ships that could accelerate at forces that would liquefy normal human bodies while firing weapons that required superhuman reaction times to aim properly. Commander Julie Henderson oversaw the training program while coordinating with Earth-based facilities that were producing new vessels at an incredible rate. The hidden shipyards that had taken 40 years to build 200 ships were now producing 50 new vessels every month. The orbital defense platforms around Earth bristled with dark matter cannons and stealth missile systems that could strike targets anywhere in the solar system. What had once been a helpless world was rapidly becoming the most heavily defended planet in known space. Dr. Helen Wright worked with teams of enhanced scientists to develop even more advanced weapons based on captured Zephyrian technology from the first battle. The enemy ships that had been destroyed provided invaluable information about Imperial military capabilities and defensive systems. Captain Kevin Walsh tested the new quantum torpedoes that could phase in and out of normal space while tracking targets across multiple dimensions. The weapons were so advanced that they required cybernetic implants just to aim them properly, since human minds could not process the complex calculations fast enough. Intelligence reports from spy satellites positioned near Zephyrian worlds confirmed that the enemy was indeed preparing a massive invasion force. The new fleet would be 5 times larger than the first attack, with ships specifically designed to counter human stealth technology and dark matter weapons. President Kane addressed the United Earth Assembly as representatives from every nation agreed to support the expanded defense program. The cost was enormous, but everyone understood that failure would mean the complete extinction of human civilization. "We face an enemy that will not accept anything less than our total surrender," Kane declared as footage from the first battle played on screens around the world. "But we have proven that humans do not surrender, and we do not kneel. We stand and we fight no matter what the odds against us might be." Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell led training exercises in the asteroid belt, where new crews learned to fight in 3-dimensional space using tactics that no other species had ever developed. Human creativity and adaptability were proving to be advantages that alien military doctrine could not counter. The enhancement program expanded to include civilian volunteers from scientific and technical backgrounds who could help maintain and improve the growing fleet. Engineers and computer specialists underwent modifications that allowed them to work directly with alien technology that normal humans could barely understand. Admiral Morrison took command of the combined Earth defense fleet as regular warships were integrated with the Black Armada under unified tactical doctrine. The conventional vessels carried enhanced crews and upgraded weapons that made them far more effective than they had been. During the first battle, Commander Sullivan established training centers on Mars and the outer moons where enhanced crews could practice combat maneuvers without risking civilian populations. The solar system was becoming a fortress with defensive positions that could support each other during the coming battle. The second Zephyrian fleet launched from Imperial space 18 months after the first defeat, with orders to completely sterilize Earth regardless of the cost. Emperor Zaxthel had decided that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to continue existing anywhere in the galaxy. As the massive alien armada crossed deep space toward Earth, the enhanced defenders prepared for a battle that would determine whether humanity would survive as a free species or be wiped out completely. The stakes could not be higher, and failure was not an option for either side. The Black Armada had grown from 200 ships to over 800 vessels, crewed by humans who had voluntarily become something more than their original species. They represented the best hope for survival that Earth had ever produced. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship watching the approaching enemy fleet on long-range sensors. In 6 months, the largest battle in galactic history would take place in Earth orbit, and the outcome would reshape the balance of power among the stars forever. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you threatened the human homeworld twice. The second Zephyrian fleet arrived at Earth with 2,000 ships spread across a formation that stretched from the moon to Mars. Emperor Zakthul had sent everything the Empire could spare, with orders to turn the human homeworld into burning ash that would serve as a warning to any other species that dared resist Imperial authority. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship, surrounded by tactical displays showing the massive enemy fleet taking position around Earth. The aliens had learned from their first defeat and brought overwhelming numbers along with new weapons designed specifically to counter human stealth technology and dark matter cannons. The orbital defense platforms around Earth opened fire first as dark matter beams reached out across space to strike the leading enemy vessels. But this time, the Zephyrian ships were protected by layered shields that could absorb multiple hits before failing completely. Captain Kevin Walsh led the first wave of Black Armada fighters into battle against odds that would have seemed impossible just 2 years earlier. His quantum torpedoes phased through enemy shields, but the aliens had developed countermeasures that reduced their effectiveness significantly. The battle raged for 3 days as both sides threw everything they had into the fight for Earth. Human ships darted between massive alien dreadnoughts while enhanced crews fought with intensity that bordered on madness. They knew that losing this battle meant the complete extinction of their species. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Mitchell commanded a squadron of stealth fighters that struck deep into the enemy formation, targeting command vessels and supply ships. Her cybernetic implants allowed her to process battle information faster than any organic mind, while her enhanced reflexes kept her alive in combat that destroyed normal pilots within seconds. Captain Tony Morrison pushed his ship beyond safe operating limits as he pursued a group of Zephyrian bombers heading toward major population centers. His enhanced body could survive acceleration forces that would have killed his original human form, while his modified nervous system calculated firing solutions instantly. The aliens had brought planet cracker weapons capable of splitting continents, but the human defenders fought with desperate courage to prevent them from reaching firing positions. Captain Rachel Young led her squadron in a suicide attack against the largest enemy vessel, ramming her ship directly into the alien bridge section. Young's sacrifice crippled the Zephyrian command structure, just as the battle reached its most critical phase. Without central coordination, the enemy fleet began making tactical errors that the enhanced human crews exploited ruthlessly. Commander Julie Henderson coordinated the defense from her position near the lunar base while processing tactical data through multiple cybernetic interfaces simultaneously. She could track every ship in both fleets while calculating optimal strike patterns that maximize damage to enemy forces. The orbital shipyards that had been producing Black Armada vessels continued operating even during the battle as automated systems launched newly completed ships directly into combat. Earth had become a fortress that could replace losses faster than the enemy could destroy them. Dr. Helen Wright monitored the battle from her underground laboratory, while her enhanced research teams developed new weapons in real time based on enemy tactics they observed during the fight. Human adaptability was proving to be the decisive factor in a war against opponents who relied on established doctrine. The tide of battle turned when Admiral Morrison ordered a coordinated strike against the Zephyrian flagship using every available Black Armada vessel. 800 enhanced ships converged on Emperor Zakthul's personal dreadnought, while their crews fought through defensive fire that destroyed dozens of human vessels. The Emperor died when quantum torpedoes penetrated his ship's bridge, just as he was ordering the complete sterilization of Earth's surface. His death shattered Zephyrian morale, and many enemy commanders began withdrawing their forces rather than continue fighting without Imperial leadership. Within hours of the Emperor's death, the surviving alien ships were fleeing Earth in complete disorder as human forces pursued them across the solar system. The mighty Zephyrian Empire that had ruled dozens of worlds for thousands of years was collapsing under the weight of military defeat. Admiral Sullivan led Black Armada expeditionary forces that followed the retreating aliens back to their home, territories where they discovered worlds filled with species that had been conquered and enslaved by the Empire. These populations welcomed human forces as liberators rather than conquerors. The enhanced crews found themselves fighting not just for Earth, but for the freedom of entire civilizations that had forgotten what independence meant. World after world threw off Zephyrian rule as human ships provided the military support needed to overthrow Imperial occupation forces. Captain Walsh established the first human colony outside the solar system, on a world that had been strip-mined by Zephyrian industrial operations. The enhanced colonists began rebuilding the damaged ecosystem while teaching local populations how to defend themselves against future threats. Within 5 years, the Zephyrian Empire had completely collapsed as member worlds either declared independence or joined the growing alliance of species protected by the Black Armada. Humanity had become the dominant military power in their region of the galaxy through superior technology and unmatched determination. Emperor Zachthel's successor attempted to negotiate a peace treaty from the ruins of the imperial capital, but Admiral Morrison refused to meet with representatives of a government that had tried to exterminate the human race. The Empire would either surrender completely or be destroyed entirely. Commander Sullivan accepted the surrender of the last Zephyrian military forces, while standing in the throne room where emperors had ruled for 10,000 years. The enhanced human looked at the alien nobles who had once commanded fleets capable of destroying entire star systems. "You made a fundamental mistake when you threatened Earth," Sullivan told the assembled Zephyrian leaders as human troops secured the Imperial Palace. "You assumed we were like other species you had conquered, but humans have never learned how to surrender, and we never will." The galaxy discovered that humanity did not seek to replace the Zephyrian Empire with another system of conquest and oppression. Instead, human forces helped establish independent governments on liberated worlds, while the Black Armada served as protectors rather than rulers. Admiral Morrison established the Galactic Defense Alliance with Earth as the central coordinating world for military operations across dozens of star systems. The enhanced human crews became the guardians of freedom for species that had lived under tyranny for generations. Years later, historians would mark the Zephyrian War as the moment when humanity truly became a spacefaring civilization, capable of influencing events across vast regions of space. The Black Armada continued expanding as new volunteers underwent enhancement to serve as defenders of liberty. But the most important lesson learned during those desperate days when Earth faced annihilation was that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from advanced weapons or superior numbers, but from the simple refusal to accept defeat. Humanity had been ordered to kneel, but instead they had risen to become the galaxy's greatest hope for freedom. The universe would never be the same after learning what humans could accomplish when their survival was threatened. The age of human expansion among the stars had begun, and no force in the galaxy would ever again underestimate the species that refused to surrender.